All right, back in the morning drive on this Friday morning. 241-1059 is our number. And remember, guys, Valentine's Day only a few days away. Don't wait till Monday to call and try to go ahead and get something set up now so you're not in the doghouse on Valentine's Day. And joining us now, a gentleman who I bet has already got Valentine's Day all set up, Jason Shaw from Atlanta. Jason, how are you this morning, man?
I'm great, Chris. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate you joining us. We had a little cold spell here in South Georgia. What's that like up there in Atlanta this morning?
Well, I actually came home last night. I got home at 9:30, so
smart man.
I'm a little tired, but I'd rather be tired at home than tired in Atlanta.
Back in God's country, my man. That's exactly right.
Yeah, glad to have a little break. It's been we've been rolling through the days of the session pretty fast this year, and hopefully we'll be able to get home a little bit earlier than the last couple of years. Maybe we're shooting to try to get finished with the session at the end of March. So hopefully we'll make that happen and get home and come back and get some work done that pays the bills.
Well, and that's, what we don't often talk about that, but you're exactly right. That's why, it is difficult for some folks who may want to serve, but who simply can't take that time away. And I know you're a businessman as well, and it's tough for you to serve in Atlanta and also make sure you can keep your business running here at home. And that's a juggle, I guess, that all legislators have to figure out a way to make work, and that can be tough sometimes.
It is. It's especially tough when you're farther away from home like we are in South Georgia. It's I don't think some of our colleagues in the Metro Atlanta area quite appreciate that extra commitment, because once we get up there on Sunday afternoon, we're there until we adjourn for the week. Luckily, we're off today, so we'd been in session the last couple of Fridays, so get a couple of extra days at home, which would be nice.
Yeah, those Atlanta legislators, they don't understand nothing. So that's why we like talking to you guys. I'm just kidding. And before we get into some of the things you've been working on, Jason, I do want to ask you about, then this is not directly concerned the state legislature, but the No Child Left Behind Act, the waiver that Georgia got. We spoke earlier with a Fox News analyst about that. Of course, education is big for every single public servant of our state, and I know it's big for you as well. A good idea that we've gotten this thing passed, or this waiver for the No Child Left Behind Act?
I think so. I think anytime you can get from under any federal regulations, you're better off. Personally, I wish they'd just dissolve the entire Department of Education on the federal level. I just, I'm all about local control and flexibility for local schools. And
amen to that.
It's one thing to have regulations coming down from Atlanta, but when you're talking about education coming down from Washington, that's a whole other ballgame. So I think the school superintendent, Dr. Barge, for the commitment he's had to trying to work with the feds to get us out from under that additional regulation. Because that No Child Left Behind, I'm not an expert on the education issues, but I've never heard a whole lot of good things about what that's done. I mean, it was a good idea. I'm sure President Bush started it, but it really hasn't worked.
Yeah, it's just a lot of things of it just flawed, and I think it's like you, the better we can always serve our citizens better locally and at the state level than the national level. And something that I know you have been involved with a lot up in the Georgia legislature, I believe it was yesterday, a bill passed the Senate Regulated Industries Committee, and of course you're in the House, and this is a Senate committee bill, but you're working on one in the House, and it involves the buying and selling of recyclable metal. And this has been a big issue, especially, I think, maybe, I don't know, more so in rural Georgia, although we hear about it a lot down here, copper theft and things of that nature, and I'm sure in your area that's a big deal as well. I'm glad to see this was passed. It was chaired by the committee is chaired by David Schaefer, Republican from Duluth, and Josh McCoon from Columbus, and Renee Unterman from Buford, both Republicans who have been behind that as well. This Senate Bill 321. You've got is it a similar bill in the House? Am I right?
Well, there was some differences on the bills when we started out, but actually I've been working with Senator Unterman. She worked on this issue 3 years ago, and they had a pretty good bill when they started out, but by the time it got through the grind of the legislature, it had been watered down quite a bit. So we're committed to trying to be able to pass a pretty strong piece of legislation. Now, I really don't care if it's her bill or my bill we end up with, which will probably end up in a conference committee and work together and work out the differences, which will be a good thing. But it doesn't matter to me. I haven't Senator Unterman's had a big press conference and all that kind of stuff. And I just hope that we can get something done. I don't really care if it's mine or hers, but I have been working with her. She's actually changed her bill somewhat with the committee substitute that passed yesterday that makes it a little more like mine. She took the fingerprinting out, I believe, but I know she took the permitting of the sellers out. I didn't have that in my bill. I do have a registration or permit, whatever you want to call it, for South Carolina did that and created a lot of problems because, I mean, quite frankly, if you're out there, if you're a farmer and you're tearing down some old buildings and you want to recycle some of the metal rather than burying it, you don't want to have to go to your sheriff and get a permit just to go sell the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that makes sense.
She has taken that out of hers, so our bills do have a lot of similarities. My bill's got like I said, the registration of the buyers, and we're set up right now so that the sheriffs of each county will administer that in conjunction with the Secretary of State's office. But really what the purpose of the permit is to generate enough fee to create a database that will be the biggest tool that law enforcement has asked for in able to, making it easier to try to solve a case or prosecute someone that has been, that has stolen the metal. Right now, if someone reports a metal theft claim, then the deputy or an investigator, whoever it might be, has to drive around several counties to all the fixed sites that they know of that are buying the metal and try to find the stolen metal and see who sold it and so forth. Well, the database will take what's existing law, which requires photographs and copies of license, and take it a step further and require that information to be uploaded into a secure electronic database so that law enforcement will be able to log on and search for that stolen metal, in this case, right there from their desk rather than having to drive around various counties and locations. Mm-hmm. This has worked really well in Mississippi. And some people will say that what we're doing is not going to help and people are still going to steal it. But I can tell you that some of the legislation that was done in these other states has worked, whereas the bill that passed in 2009 in Georgia that was supposed to work, metal theft has increased each year since. It increased. I can tell you that AT&T lost 4 times more in 2011 than they did in 2010.
Wow.
I was talking with Sheriff Prine about it yesterday, and he said it's gotten point now where they're stealing live wire and anything they can get their hands on. But the unfortunate thing is that we're going to have to create some new regulations on the industry, and we've got a lot of good people in that industry that are creating jobs. So I hope what we end up with is something that we can all live with that'll work. But I have been working closely with the industry, and they do realize there's a problem. And I think they do want to be part of the solution. So we've got a good group. It's a very complex bill because there's several code sections, because you've also got to deal with the junk cars and all, and that. Then you get into the Department of Revenue side and all that. Then you're getting into the criminal side. My bill is in Judiciary Committee, and that's why it takes a little longer to get it out of the House, because Judiciary Committee is well known for properly vetting bills. So I think when it's a learning experience for me for sure, but I think when we do get it out of committee that we'll have a very strong, very clean bill, hopefully that won't have any, because you got to make sure you don't have any.
Yeah, it's and just again something that it seems like the problem, and I don't have to deal with it every day, so I don't know exactly what all the issues are. But you may not be able to stop folks from stealing this material, but if you can cut off the places where they're selling it without any type of identification, like you're talking about, then that's going to obviously common sense says that's going to cut down on it. So,
well, another part of the bill is and this is where it really is a kind of is we're looking in a waiting period basically before they can pay for the metal. So somebody that has stolen metal, if they get somewhere, you're not going to be able to there with the money. And
Jason, we're losing you just a bit. I know we may have a bad cell signal between you and us, so hopefully we'll get that improved. We also did want to ask you about the charter school amendment that came before the House this week. It was voted on Thursday, 114 to 49, to reconsider the amendment because it did not get the 2/3 majority vote on Wednesday, so it's going to go back to the Rules Committee, and we'll have more debate on that next week. But let me ask you what your thoughts are on this charter school bill as it was presented to you, and also the amendment.
First of all, I don't have a problem with charter schools. I think they can be very helpful and useful, and especially in the metro Atlanta area where they're having major issues with some of their public schools. I think our public schools are much, much stronger here. We've still got safe places for our kids to go to school and our teachers. But so I don't have a problem with charter schools. But what I did have a problem with, and why I was one of the 9 Republicans who did not vote in favor of it, is because I don't like the fact that we're not going ahead and figuring out how we're going to fund these charter schools through the constitutional amendment. Mm-hmm. That would have to be done with some enabling legislation that would be done afterwards. Well, if we could go ahead and figure out what we want to agree on as far as how we're going to fund these, we can't just leave it open without letting our public schools know what they're going to look forward to in the future. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of arm twisting going on, as you could imagine.
Yeah,
and with the reconsideration vote, it can be called back up at any time, and hopefully they won't call it back up again, especially if they don't have the votes.
Well, and I mean, that's just responsible governance. I mean, it's fine, but let's figure out how to pay for it. And I know you probably talked to a lot of local school administrators who, for the last couple of years, they've really been hit hard in budgets. We've had teacher layoffs. We've had days that the teachers have had to take off and whatnot. And that's not just here in South Georgia, but across the state. And so now you're talking about, something else that's going to hit them in the pocketbook. We just got to figure out what that is and what they can expect.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go ahead and try to figure out if there's something that we can all live with on the front end rather than just leaving it open on the back end. I told somebody yesterday, it's like some of my colleagues in the Atlanta area say, look, we guarantee we're going to do something that, we're going to take care of you. I said, well, let's go ahead and find out what that is. Let's don't I can't go back home to my folks and say, hey, our Atlanta's going to take care of us, because I don't think anybody believes that.
No, I trust you, but I don't trust you that much, Jason. And I knew you wouldn't try to sell that to me either, so I appreciate that.
No, but it is a tough situation, and like I said, there is a lot of pressure. There's, a lot of, they need 120 votes to pass the constitutional amendment, and they came up 10 short. Mm-hmm. So it's not over, but hopefully we've got some some room to compromise, because it's definitely not going away.
Jason Shaw joining us this morning, of course, the Georgia General Assembly. I guess you guys about halfway. Have you passed the halfway point yet?
No, not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite. We'll hit the halfway point next week.
Gotcha. So almost to the halfway point. Can we somehow introduce an amendment to not allow Nick Saban to recruit any more football players in the state of Georgia? Could you possibly sponsor that bill? I'd be glad to promote it as much as we can.
Yeah, we just need to do an urging resolution. That's about all we can do.
I'd urge it strongly, though. But no, I know there's a lot of things you guys have been talking about. Let me ask you real quickly before we let you go about the I know there's been a lot of talk about a cap on lobbying and lobbyist gifts to legislators. First of all, is that a big issue? I mean, we all know that when you go up there, I think if people, when they hear that, they think the lobbying's a bad thing. And lobbying, I don't think in and of itself is a bad thing. I mean, if you're in industry, you want somebody up there to stand up for you and to speak your mind, whatever that industry may be. And I don't have a problem with that. But the gift part of it, has that been a big issue up there? Do you think it's a problem?
Well, it's a problem nationwide. It has been, but at the same time, I think a couple of years ago, Georgia passed probably the most transparent ethics bill in the country. I mean, everything is fully transparent, and I worry that if you do go too far with some of the ethics legislation, that you'll start seeing some things going underground. And I think as long as everything is transparent, lobbyists in Atlanta are a necessary evil, if you will, because when we deal with over 2,000 pieces of legislation during the session, during 40-day session, I mean, you can't be an expert at everything. You have to have people up there representing different industries. But a good lobbyist and one that's been there a long time, they don't stay there long if they don't give good information. Not only do they have to give their side of it, but they have to give the other side. Here's the pros and the cons. Because if a lobbyist gives you some misleading information, then you're not going to ever trust them again.
Right.
So
Right.
There's a lot of good lobbyists. It's like anything, when you've got that many people, you're going to have good apples and bad apples.
Sure.
But that was, as long as you know who the good ones are and the bad ones are, you're ahead of the game.
Well,
but yeah, it is something that, especially the media has, really latched on to. But it's a very transparent system. Lobbyists have to report every single thing they do. It's either every week or every 2 weeks during the session, so anybody can log on and see exactly what's going on.
Well, and again, I think in some respect, legislators have to become somewhat like a judge. Okay, here's this issue. I need more information. Present your side, present the other side, and let me make a decision on if this is a good piece of legislation or not. And I know you go into everything with an open mind, and it's like you said, if somebody can come and show you, I mean, you don't have all the time in the world. They're not going to take a whole day to sit there and tell you this. You want to say, okay, I got to let's get through this. Give me the information, and let's go.
Exactly. I mean, you just know going in that you have to look at both sides, but the main thing you have to look at in our situation is what's good for our district.
Right. Exactly. Well, and that's why we enjoy having you guys on the show to talk about exactly the things that do affect our district. And this is not a paid political advertisement, but or a paid advertisement of any kind. But if you're looking for something for Valentine's Day, Jason, I got to tell you, I got a bottle of that olive oil. Man, that is good stuff. Now, I want to tell you, that stuff you make it over there in Lakeland. I don't know anything about olive harvesting, so I don't know if you're where you are in that process. But good night alive, that's good stuff.
Well, I'm glad you like it, Chris. I've had a lot of good compliments, and we're proud of where we are, and we are working on getting some more bottled now. So hopefully we may even have some by Valentine's. I'm out here at the farm right now trying to see what I've missed this week and getting ready to go into the office. But it's been a fun project. But going back to the urging resolution on the Nick Saban deal, I have been working on an urging resolution piece along with our Ag Commissioner Gary Black this week, and he asked me to take the lead on it. But I don't know if you've heard what's going on the federal level with the Department of Labor, but they're trying to add some regulations that say that someone under 16 years of age cannot work on a farm.
Well, we've talked about this, yes.
And so what we're doing, it's really not an answer to the problem, but it will just express our views on it. But I'm sponsoring an urgent resolution to send to Congress and to Washington that says, hey, look, folks like me have grown up working on farms, and that's what molded us into who we are. And that's a long tradition. So that's just unbelievable that people in Washington would even think that way.
Well, that just means they need a couple of mornings getting up early and, throwing melons or sucking tobacco or harvesting olives or something like that, and they would realize the importance of that hard work because, nobody ever got in trouble if you're out there throwing watermelons, Well,
I mean, that's what keeps kids out of trouble is getting out there and working on the farm and learning what the value of hard work is all about, and that's part of the problem today.
Absolutely. If we had more farmers running things that have to sit there and run their own business and, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. It could be a storm or it could be whatever. And we could go on and on about that. But that makes perfect sense. And we talked about that on this show and the fact that, in all the ills we have in society today, a little hard work early on certainly give you a lot of character and certainly, like you said, tell you what the value of that hard work is. That makes perfect sense. And I hope that they hear you when you send that resolution up.
Yeah, me too.
Jason, good to talk to you, my man. We appreciate it.
Good to talk to you. Take care. If we can do anything for y'all, just don't hesitate to call or email us with your questions and concerns.
All right, Jason, thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Jason Shaw, of course, like all of our legislators, if you want to contact Jason, you can log on to their website, to the Georgia House of Representatives or Georgia Senate, and they got their email information. It's all posted there publicly. You can get in contact with them if there's a piece of legislation that you hear about or just an idea. Hey, they like getting that kind of feedback from their constituents, and so they'd love to hear from you. I believe Senator Tim Golden will be joining us next Friday, and we look forward to that as well. We'll take a break and come right back. Our strangest story of the day as we wrap it up on a Friday morning, all coming up after this. You're listening to The Morning Drive. On News Talk 105.9, this is WV.